The COYGIG Pod and OTB Sports in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.
Everyone ran their socks off tonight and they left everything out there. I'm very proud of the team's performance.
Let the shackles off Katie a bit so that she can go and play her game.
We're going to go out there to beat them. We're going to try and beat them.
Hello there, you are listening to episode 20 of the COYGIG Pod, your one-stop shop for all the WSL, WNL and Irish football analysis, opinions, gossips, whatever you could want. I'm Karen Duggan, and back with me after taking a little break from me is Ruth Fahy, fresh off the back of the Women's Football Conference, I believe, in Galway. How was that, Ruth?
Yeah, I wouldn't say fresh now on a Monday, but it was very interesting. The conference hadn't been on for the previous 2 years because of COVID. So it's in my hometown of the best place in the world, Galway, as you well know. So we had a couple of local DOs speaking, and very interestingly, we had two board members, Liz Joyce and Catherine Guy. I hope I haven't mixed up those names. And they were fascinating. So they've obviously come on to the FAI board, so very positive in terms of gender balance. But a question was put from the floor in terms of who is in there, representing the voice of women's football. And I think the answer was it's still a work in progress. So it was just like an update really on where things are at in terms of the strategy. But it was nice to see them involved in the conference and to see them in person and just go crack in general, meeting everybody. So the only unfortunate was that it was at the same time as Women's National League games, so you guys couldn't come and coaches couldn't come. So that was a little bit of an oversight, but no, it was great. Really good day.
A little bit of an oversight happens quite often. We'll get into that in a little bit. Of course, Emma Carroll will be along with us later for Team of the Week, and we'll also be talking about something a little bit different in the second half of the pod. Chris McElligott from FAI's Football for All initiative will be joining us to chat through all the brilliant work that's being done by them to include everybody in the Irish football community in our beautiful game. So before that, they're officially a WSL team. We'll go to and talk about Liverpool because we do have a good Irish contingency there. So we'll be talking about them a lot next season. Your hometown gal as well, Ruth Fahy, lifting the cup. It was just great to see, wasn't it? There was serious scenes there and a record crowd, I think 5,500 for a championship game. So that was fantastic to see. Yeah,
love seeing the pictures. There is something really, really special. And for all the, the jibing we give to Emma, picking her Team of the Week and having the Irish contingent, there is something really nice about seeing the girls do so well. And especially the likes of Niamh, Leanne, Megan as well, totally deserve from the season that they've put in, and can't wait to see them next year as well.
Yeah, there'll definitely be even more opportunity for Irish bias in the Team of the Week, so Emma will be buzzing. It was a historic week in general for women's football. Just to briefly touch on the Barcelona Real Madrid game, 91,000 people at it. Amazing. Probably to see one of the best women's football teams, the best probably ever, this Barcelona squad.
Yeah, Barcelona have just been an incredible story the last couple of years because it was all Leon. Over the last few seasons, Barcelona, they've just been doing everything right. The way they play is just so entertaining. They've got brilliant characters and they're so good to watch. And I'm surprised to see plus 90,000 spectators, but I'm not surprised that a record crowd came to attend that Real Barcelona derby match, and worthy winners that go through, and hopefully it'll draw more crowds now for the semi-finals.
Yeah, it's hard to see them being stopped. On our own shores, obviously smaller crowds, but no less excitement in the WNL this week.
Oh yes,
that's it. But
well, let's start that, Karen. But let's not deflect, please. Come on, we need to ask you, how was your weekend? Never mind asking me about me and my conference. How was your weekend?
It was good. There was ups and downs. Obviously, we had a great result, beating Wexford 4-0. Really good performance. We obviously knew at that point that we were already on the back foot, that we were getting docked 3 points for basically an administrative error. So it was.
Did you know that before the game itself?
We did, yeah. So.
That's why you're so angry, was it? That's why you scored so many goals. Possibly,
yeah. But we just knew that the pressure was on. I mean, it would be too early in the season for us to be down 6 points on our nearest rivals. So it was important for us to get a result, and we put in a really, really good performance. It would have been helped if Sligo could have hung on for another couple of minutes. Shelburne nicked a goal, I think like the 92nd minute, to win that 1-0. But again, shows the progress that Sligo are making.
Yeah, I think every neutral was watching that 0-0 and hoping that they would hang in, especially away in Salka as well. That's unbelievably exciting for Sligo. That'll give them a massive boost. It was nice to see Emma Hansberry as well in Team of the Week. I'm sure we're going to see plenty of her name in that graphic throughout the season. But yeah, no surprise at Shelburne. They love a last minute winner, don't they? And credit to Kiva Keenan as well, who's come back from an ACL injury, and to have the character and I suppose the patience to be able to hang in there for that. Really impressive, but yeah, gutted for Sligo, but they will take so much from that.
Yeah, and Galway got back to winning ways after their blip against Athlone, which was good to see. 2-0 win against Treaty. Probably again to be expected, but good for them to get back on track nonetheless.
Yeah, you say to be expected, but I still very painfully remember going to Treaty last season and being 2-0 up and conceding 2 goals in the last 4 minutes. So never say never with these things. So Galway would be definitely really pleased to come away, whether it's 2-0 or 5-0 going to Treaty, you want to come away with 3 points. So yeah, they'll be happy because that was a disappointing result last week against Athlone.
Yeah, and Cork getting some points on the board against Bows after the start they'd had to the season. Possibly didn't expect that result, but a good 2-0 win, and hopefully the start of them coming into themselves a little bit, because I know they had been a little bit disappointing in their early games, but good win against Bows.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a really big win as well. Bows are an up and coming team, getting better every week. But Cork are a strange one. Like, I always like seeing Cork do well because they should be doing well. I suppose that's it. They should be doing well. They have a strong history in the league and in the cup, and they have really good supports down in Cork. And like, they have all the things I talk about a lot, and the background supports and internal structures are quite solid there. So you'd like to see that reflected in the team, but it's just been really hard for them losing players. Really, really hard. It's probably something that you can't overcome. All the good, solid internal structures in the world can't make up for that. So it's good to see them getting 3 points on the board. Happy for them. It
is, and an export that we've had from the league, segueing into the WSL. Katie McCabe made her 150th appearance for Arsenal. That's no mean feat. That was in a 5-0 win over Leicester. Now, Leicester were off the back of a 9-0 defeat the previous week. They'll be delighted to get to the end of this season and just kind of stop the rot that's kind of happening there at the moment. But Arsenal, just prolific again. Mead had one in the back of the net after 2 minutes. Miedema bounced up with 2. That's a really interesting one, who's going to get golden boot between her and Sam Kerr, both scoring 2 this weekend. But Arsenal very, very convincing. Doing what they have to do to try and keep tabs on Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly, and doing everything that they can as well. I think there's a 5-goal difference in between them and Chelsea. I thought you were going to say Leicester would have been happy just to lose 5-0. I think that's a bit harsh, Karen.
No.
But no, they were just completely outclassed, completely outplayed. For Arsenal, I suppose they're coming off the back of that loss in the Champions League, so it's important that they bounce back. And yeah, prolific is the word. They've just been amazing to watch this season. And Katie McCabe stand out again, and like you say, 150 appearances is phenomenal. When you look back to the history and the fact she had to go on loan in her initial year or two and just come back and it's a great story and it's really inspiring.
It is, and they had to win, and they had to win convincingly, because Chelsea romped home against Reading as well. Put 5 past them. They got their first in the 40th minute, but once they got that goal, they just went up a gear. Their final ball in was just better. England was brilliant up front, and big credit to her, because she's often on the bench and she's waiting her opportunity. Guru Wrighton, I thought, was amazing again, and Kerr, she just loves scoring goals. The first one was a messy kind of miss-hit goal, but when you're that kind of striker, they go in. She just knows where the back of the net is.
Yeah, glad you pulled out Beth England there. Her character is incredible. She was a star player before Kerr came in, and Kerr and Kirby will take the plaudits and much of it. So, and sitting on the bench like a player of Beth England's caliber, it's definitely a serious mental challenge. But oh my God, she was incredible, wasn't she? Some of the finishes were brilliant. She was involved in everything in the final third. Just really aggressive, really tenacious, and yeah, for me, player of the match for sure.
And it's hard to see them slipping up, I think. I mean, they just seem to be a team full of winners. I don't think that being on top of the league doesn't faze them. That's where they expect to be. So at this point, I think I'm tipping Chelsea.
Are you tipping Chelsea?
Yeah, I think so.
It's just even looking, just to skip ahead and look at their games. Chelsea are 44 points, Arsenal 43. Chelsea, Spurs home and away. Probably can't see them losing there. Birmingham away. 3 points, but they've got United at home.
The United is going to be so interesting because I think the Champions League spot will come down to that final game as well. Like, it's obviously going to be between themselves and Man City for that one. So you could potentially have both teams really, really needing the win, which makes for a fascinating end of season affair if it goes down to the wire. It'd be brilliant for us as a neutral to kind of watch.
Yeah, 100%. And it's only because of that game that I'm not going to hang my hat on Chelsea. I see Arsenal getting all maximum points with Everton, Villa, West Ham and Spurs, but it's that United final game for Chelsea. I could see a slip up there.
Ooh, watch this space. United weren't as convincing as they had been in previous games, but they got their 6th home league win in a row. Leah Galton getting the goal against Brighton. United had come close a good few times before that, but yeah, I think Mark Skinner was happy to just kind of get over the line with that one. He spoke about going back to the drawing board and talking about their finishing and things like that. But they had been on a really good run and they still managed to get the win. And that's what's important because, again, Man City, 2-0 win over West Ham, 5-game winning streak. And I saw a good bit of it. They controlled the game. I know West Ham had 1 or 2 chances where maybe they could have drawn level at 1-1, but I thought Man City were totally in control. And again, I think Bunny Shaw, if she had had more game time, she would have put away more than just the 1 chance that she did in the game.
Yeah, just City are on an opposite road, aren't they? You mentioned 5-game winning streak. I think it's 7 games in all competitions as well. They just came into the season just a little bit too late to challenge for the top of the table. But there was a point, I think it was 1-0 to City. There's a through ball from West Ham. I'm not sure if you saw that, but Claudia Walker was offside. Running alongside her was Leon, and it was literally she had the whole final third of space, and
you would kill her.
Walker, she just had to let it go. She just, like, as if her body reacted before her brain did, and she was called offside. But my God, you wouldn't forgive her quickly, would you, if that was your team?
No, it'd be a long trip home on that team bus if that had happened with me. Now I have to say, the Champions League space looks to have slipped away from Spurs. They hadn't scored in a couple of games and it came back to bite them again against Aston Villa. Petzlberger getting an 87th minute win for them. That's a really good win for Aston Villa because they had spoken about not getting points in these kind of games. Their manager, Carl Ward, said it was an ugly game afterwards. Yeah. And some of the Spurs games I've watched have been ugly, but they haven't been firing on all cylinders lately and they were punished against Aston Villa, but good points for Villa.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you referenced that quote. It was an ugly game. I think you said it was an ugly game, but they deserved to win it. And I think I just about agree with that. You'd feel a little bit sorry for Spurs. You know, they were within touching distance of the Champions League spaces at one point. But I think at 28 points now, you're looking at 7 points behind City in 4th place. You're looking at just slipping away a little bit. And they did have a tough few weeks. They had a little COVID kind of outbreak at one point, and they don't seem to have recovered from that. But I do think Villa deserved that. It was a nice goal as well from Petzlberger to seal it at the end.
Yeah, and finally we had a thrilling 0-0, but Birmingham got another point on the board. There is always one. Everton had lost their last 2 away games, so I'd say Birmingham, I guess, were buoyed by that. They stayed in the game well, and there's not much more to say on that.
Yeah, they did. They stayed in the game well. Emily Ramsey was pretty solid in goals for Birmingham, so that's a discussion point.
Point on the board.
that's something to mention. But apart from that, nil draw and not too much excitement apart from that.
But all eyes on the top of the table anyway. Really, Birmingham are not long for the WSL, but yeah, the top of the table is really, really, really interesting. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports in association with Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. Actually, with big news today, Katie McCabe being announced as the Cadbury ambassador for their new campaign to support grassroots football for women in Ireland. And they're aiming to put €50,000 into our game on home soil. So wow, what a difference that will make, what a difference it could have made when we were younger. I just think it's a really exciting time to be coming up playing football in Ireland now, especially since Cadbury's have got on board. You see the billboards and everything that they're doing to promote the game. It's just fantastic to see.
Yeah, that's right. I actually first time I've heard of it, so thank you for letting me know.
We're all learning something here today.
Haven't had much time today to even breathe. But that's incredible, and you know, for all the talk of pushing our league forward, and when you say
grassroots investment,
Yeah, it's actually a tangible amount. It's 50,000, and it's quite refreshing to see a company actually pledge a figure like that, because that will go really, really far. And obviously investing in grassroots has a direct impact on everything else. So that's really amazing. Credit to them.
Yeah, big time. And I will be looking forward to their support of our Irish women's team, who are now in camp getting ready for that all-important qualifier against Sweden next week. So if you have any opinions, suggestions or thoughts on what we've just been discussing, get them into us on Twitter using @offtheball, using the hashtag OTB COYGIG. We would love to hear them.
The COYGIG Pod and OTB Sports in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.
Now Emma Carroll is joining us with her team of the week. We had goals, so I'd imagine that this will be very attacking heavy, but who has made your team of the week this week?
Yeah, very, very surprising attack this week, I'd say. Goalkeeper, I went with startup for Brighton. Wasn't too many outstanding goalkeeping performances this weekend, and maybe could have done better for the goal against United, but overall I think she done quite well against them. At the back I went with Greenwood, Kirkdyke, Flaherty, Bright. A midfield 2 of Littlejohn and O'Brien, and a front 4 of Sam Kerr, Miedema, Nikita Paris and Beth England.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprises on the top of that pitch. Obviously, Kerr got 2 goals, Miedema got 2 goals. I don't know how many assists Nikita Paris got. She seemed to get like 3 in a row when we were watching them. But we briefly spoke about Beth England before, and just what she's like when she gets on the pitch. Like, it hasn't phased her that she's been sitting on the bench, that she's not the person that everyone's talking about or going for golden boot. She really put herself about, and it's a testament to her character.
Yeah, she's taken her chance really with Kirby and Harder out, and for that first goal in particular, which was just amazing. She took the throw in really quickly, spotted that the team was all over the place. I think they lost it briefly, then she won it back, passed it to Wrighton, and then she just bombs into the box and finishes on a lovely volley. It was just like, she made the goal, she scored the goal. She was excellent, I thought.
And same for the penalty as well. Made the penalty, absolutely buried the penalty.
What do you think of that though? Yeah. What do you think of her taking the penalty? Sam Kerr was on 2 goals. Sam Kerr is going for golden boot. I would say Sam Kerr is probably the penalty taker generally. What do you make of that?
I heard her in the post-match interview, and by the sounds of it, Kerr thought England was also on for a hat-trick. Okay. Because when England put it away, she said that Kerr came over and was like, "Oh my God, Hattie, well done." And she's like, "No." So oh my God, they're scoring so many. Kicking herself that.
So. Imagine like losing track of the amount of goals he scored.
That's what I was just going to say there. Obviously scoring too many goals.
We did probably a shout in there for Beth Mead as well. I know she's featured quite a lot, but my God, she was just incredible. She scored a cracker, involved in everything. I can see why you had Nikita Paris in there as well, because it's nice to see her in good form and in strong form. But I don't know, Beth Mead is just outrageous as well.
She's having an excellent season, and I couldn't get Lauren Hemp in there either this week, so that's saying a lot when I can't get Mead or Hemp into the team. I thought Mead was just excellent and involved in everything, and you wouldn't think she had room to take her game to the next level, but since she dropped deeper, she's just involved in everything and getting 2 goals as well. And yeah, as you said, Paris came on off the bench, and I just thought she added that extra dimension to Arsenal. Yeah. I think a lot of the other players tend to try pass and get into spaces and pockets, and Nikita picks up the ball and she just runs at you. And like, yeah, I think she definitely got 2 assists, and she was definitely involved in a third one, so there was no way I could leave her out.
No, we'll give you that one.
We will give you that one. And we have Ruesha Littlejohn making her first appearance, I think, on your team of the week.
Yeah, listen, had to get some Irish in there. No, I watched the Villa and Spurs game. It wasn't the most exciting game, but I thought Ruesha was involved in quite a lot. Anytime I looked up, it was her. Pacheco as well was on the ball a lot, so she probably worked a shout for Aston Villa as well. But obviously, I put my green
think even
glasses
Rachel Corsie as well was worth a shout. She was good for them. I see you've Bright on playing right back there today, but yeah, well,
she's the right of the three centre backs, and the way she was playing on Sunday, she was up and down that right wing so much, so she might as well have been a right back.
In recent weeks, her distribution has just been insane for setting up some of those attacks, and obviously the girls up front are getting a lot of credit. They've scored 14 goals in 2 games, which is fair, but she's been adding to that as well. A few new names at the back there. We did kind of mention maybe Emily Ramsey was a shout for goalkeeper, just because she helped Birmingham get a point.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd throw her in, but I think now that's my bias. I think it's like contagious, Emma. I can see why this happens, because you just want, you want the girls in Birmingham to do well. You want some sort of positive out of the game, but she was quality, and she kept them in that, fairly dirty visual of a 0-0 draw. But I think she probably had a shout out. But Startup, to be fair, I can see why. Justified also.
Greenwood down the left. It is hard to pick. You could put Guru Wrighton in there if you're shoehorning people into different positions. I just love watching her play. She's and she added another 2 assists, and her work ethic is fantastic. I feel like there's just no egos in that Chelsea team. Like, they're all winners. They just all work so hard. It's obviously credit to Emma Hayes, the way she's managing her squad. Like I say, keeping someone like England happy despite lack of game time. That's huge credit to her management, I would say.
Yeah, and Jessie Fleming as well played really well.
Yeah,
also could, like any other week, might be in there as well with a shout. So yeah, that squad is just unbelievable, because the players you have coming off the bench then, and that's still with the likes of Kirby and Harder out injured. Loopholes obviously won't be playing now for who knows how long, has her baby, but like, it's just an unbelievable squad.
Yeah, and well, just on the Birmingham thing, getting a point, a bit of confidence for the girls going into camp. Obviously, we've got Liverpool; those girls will be absolutely buzzing going into camp. So that's going to be really good in terms of Irish perspective, going into a really, really hard game against Sweden. Obviously, the squad was announced last week. The only thing you'd be a little bit worried about is the couple of injuries to the centre back positions. Obviously, we mentioned that Savannah McCarthy has done her ACL, so we wish her all the best with her recovery. But Diane Caldwell also hasn't recovered from her injury, which has kept her out of the last couple of Man United games. Who would you be thinking might slot into that third centre back position?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because you see Harriet Scott is back in the squad as well, and she obviously has the experience. Chloe Mustaki is young and quite exciting to watch. Megan Campbell comes back into the squad as well, but I don't see her getting in for a game against Sweden. Unfortunately, I'd love to see her, and love to see her throw some long throws in and maybe work on some set pieces like that might actually get us go. Maybe that's an option later in the game if we're keeping them at bay. I wonder sorry to interrupt you. I wonder if Chloe Mustaki have a shout out of starting. Like, I just wouldn't be surprised. Just because I remember
a natural left footer as well.
Yeah, and she's been really she performed really well in their recent friendly. I remember with Savannah, we didn't think that she was going to feature, and she started. I can't remember, who it was against when she did, and I wasn't sure was she ready, but it was her first involvement with the squad, and suddenly she was starting in a qualifier, and she did really well. She had a shaky start, but came into it, and I think that kind of bodes well for Chloe Mustaki, who we know can definitely compete at that level. She's definitely good enough, so just wouldn't be surprised to see her in there, on that left side of the back.
Annie,
do you reckon?
Absolutely. I think there's any number of players. Even Claire Walsh has always impressed when she's been given an opportunity. She's the first name on the team sheet in Glasgow these days, so not to forget about her. There is options there. It's just that you're coming up against it when you're playing Sweden, so you just want to make sure that you're really ready for it. I would say possibly adding someone like Claire is a good idea just for pace. Besides Louise and Ruth Fahy, but again, will probably be very deep, so it might be go for someone who's bigger, stronger kind of a thing. But yeah, it remains to be seen. But something to look forward to anyway next week. We obviously don't have WSL, so Emma, you're put away 4 or 5 of those screens next weekend.
You'll find some other matches.
Yeah, we're not letting you get away scot-free. Emma, you will still be with us next week. I think we're probably due a shout of team of the season so far. What do we reckon?
Yeah, it's probably about time that we updated that team of the season so far, and then kind of before we get into the business end.
Business end. Yeah. So get your opinions into us. Who's been the most consistent player so far this season? How many Irish players will Emma manage to shoehorn in? Get your thoughts, opinions and predictions into us on Twitter using @offtheball using the hashtag OTB COYGIG.
The COYGIG Pod and OTB Sports in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.
Now, we're delighted to be joined on this week's podcast by Chris McElligott from the FAI's Football for All initiative. So, Chris, you're working as a football development officer going around promoting all types of power chairs, street leagues, other forms of disabilities, as well as amputee. But I'm really interested in the amputee side of things because obviously you've been there since day dot. Since the foundation of amputee football, I think it's 10 years ago. Yeah. It has come on a long, long way. Can you kind of give us a summary on how it started and how it's developed over that time?
Yeah, I suppose, well, it was started off by a friend of mine in Limerick, Simon Baker. He got in touch with the then coordinator of the Football for All programme, Oisin Jordan, and they came up with the brainstorming idea of giving that opportunity to amputees players. It was, I suppose they did a bit of research, and the Simon did. He's seen a couple of World Cups and countries that played in them, and then it went from there. Like there was no opportunity for amputee players or amputee individuals apart from, you could have amputee golf, things like that, Paralympic golf, where players could participate there. But if you had players who had a love for football, there wasn't football. So the format of the game was a really good one, in the sense that most people would laugh when they say this, that, it's played on crutches. Outfield players have one leg and you play the game on crutches, which is, it's tough, but your body adjusts to it, it gets used to it, fitter you get. And the goalkeepers have one arm and 2 legs. So goalkeepers can play mainstream football as well. They can, with the one arm, it can be gone from the wrist, the elbow and the shoulder. And the outfield players can be gone from the foot, the knee and the hip. We also have players who have been born with their limb in place, but it's non-functional, and they can play. So I think people sometimes kind of get confused a little bit when you say amputee football, or so you have to have lost the limb. Not necessarily, you just it has to be a certain amount of inches off the floor, but also non-functional.
It's fascinating. Just for people that don't really know, and including myself, could you tell us a bit more about the rules? I'd love to, how many? Is it 2 halves? How many minutes aside? What size is the pitch? How many players?
International football rules are quite different than the rules we've enforced in our league, because our league is smaller pool of players to choose from, and we've some of the National League clubs who are involved. We've formatted the 5-a-side game just so the players can play the game, and then as the interest grows, we've increased the size of the teams, the size of the pitch. So the international game itself is played on a 7-a-side pitch, which is 60 by 40 in dimensions. The rules of the game are I suppose, it makes sense when we explain it, because players are playing on the crutches. So the crutches are extensions of the arm. So if the ball hits the crutch intentionally, it's a handball. But if it's, for instance, if a player goes to block the ball and the crutches are planted in the ground, which they have to be to enable the player to have some sort of stability as they try and make a block, the referee would deem that as accidental and play on. But if you're clever and decide to widen the angle of the crutches and plant them, then you're preventing an opportunity for a pass to be completed, which then is a handball. So your residual limb, the leg that's missing, if the ball hits that or the player uses that to get off the ground, it's a free kick against the player. Some players, as I said, are gone from below the knee, so they have the use of their knee, which would give them an advantage against somebody getting off the ground who's gone above the knee. So, they're the sort of rules that we have in place for the outfield players. Goalkeepers aren't allowed to leave their area, the box. If a goalkeeper leaves their area intentionally, it's deemed as an intentional foul or misconduct, and the referee would then see that as an automatic red card and a penalty decision. If the player's momentum carries them out of the box, well, then it's just a free kick, and the ref and the goalkeeper doesn't get punished in the sense of a card.
Not messing about with those rules. What's the refereeing standards like? I mean, we've good referees here. We don't have enough referees here, if I'm being honest. What we need to put together in the process of doing that is putting a workshop together with the referees to get all the league referees, all the league referees around the country to attend, those who are interested to attend a one-day workshop where we bring in the two teams, Shamrock Rovers, Bows or Cork City won them. And we have a game, and we kind of get the referees who are experienced, who also will do the games, and we'll point out some of the decisions that are made and why they're made, clear and obvious ones.
Okay. It's fascinating, actually. Yeah, really to be honest, it's fascinating. I'd love to get to a game. Am I right that you're Rovers man now? Is that right, Chris?
I am big statement. I am a Rovers man. Since we set up the league, we tried to division the players in such a way that all three teams had a good range of players with a lot of experience in it, and so that we didn't want any one team being stronger than everybody else. And it worked. It worked for a good bit of time, and then some players have retired, some players have finished playing. And we're bringing new players into it, so we may have to do a redivisioning again. But at the moment, I play with Rovers. Like last year, I went on loan to Cork because Cork lost some players, so we had to fill the gap. So, but again, it's a remarkable game. I don't mind who I play for. It's a pity there's no Pats team in it, because after coming from the same Pats team many years ago, it would have made all the sense in the world for me to go and play for the Pats team.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that was going to be my next question, because I wondered how it felt going from being a former Pats man. It would hold a very strong place in your heart. I hadn't realised you won a title with Pats in '96. Under Brian Kerr, of all people, one of my favourite men in the whole world. What was he like as a manager?
I have to say he was the best manager I've ever worked under, in the sense that he has so much knowledge about players in the League of Ireland. Like he can tell you stats on players till the cows come home. Like every player, and I don't mean just the top teams. I mean every team in the National League, whether it be Premier Division or First Division, he's able to give you stats on them players, and he knows everything about them. He knows the strengths and weaknesses. Like he's been watching that many games. Excellent man, and the sort of the man who would put his arm around you at times, and tell you, what you need to do. But he was also guided by another great man in Noel O'Reilly, God rest his soul. But two of them together were two legends. Like.
Yeah, and he still is one of the biggest legends in Irish football, and hopefully he'll be back in some sort of managerial sense, working on the ground again. From there, so you returned to Ballymun, am I right? Yeah. After Pats.
Yeah.
And that was your school, your boyhood club? That's where it all began.
That's where it all began. Yeah, I remember. I was a goalkeeper before I became an outfield player. I played as a goalkeeper up to the age of 18 years of age. I was supposed to go, myself and a guy called Alan Whelan were being scouted by Manchester United at the time. I was probably one of the smallest goalkeepers you ever seen in your life. but I was coming from playing Gaelic as well, as you did back in the day. We played all sports. We did, we were allowed to play all sports, and somehow they didn't conflict each other, didn't come in, on the same day as we had to make a decision. So it was really good. And I think, when I was told about the scout wanting me to go and trials, I kind of panicked I liked to be mammy too much and all that stuff. I didn't want to go anywhere. So I went from there, and one day we were playing. I was representing the amateur league in a game, and we were short of players, and we had 3 goalkeepers. So somebody said, "Will they play out?" Because I've been playing in goal all year for them. So I said, "Yeah," and I played out. And a guy called Jerry Smith was in charge of the international team and things like that. And I remember I was playing in that game, and I played very full. And that day, played the game, came off the pitch, and they turned around and just told me basically that you're never playing a goal again. And I was like, okay. And the following, at the end of that season, I signed for a professional contract with Brian Kerr and Pat's.
Wow.
One year playing.
In 1 year. That's incredible.
Playing as an LFA player.
So it was obviously, you've had a great career, and it all changed at 30 when you were involved in an accident and you lost your leg. How long were you out of the game, and what was your relationship like with football at that time?
Yeah.
What was it like?
I'll be honest, it was, I kind of fell out of love with the game. I did. It was 4 years out of football. I won't say I was feeling sorry for myself, but I was kind of in a situation where I didn't want to go and watch football. It was easier for me to stay at home, it was easier for me to lounge around. I had great people around me who were, looking after me, giving me things. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to do anything. And then I remember we were at to win the league at Ballymun at the time, and we win the league at Ballymun. They treated you to a holiday where you played a representative team abroad. And I remember us going away, and I also remember how difficult it was for me to get around. So I kind of started thinking to myself, this is not for me. I felt out of the loop to a certain degree, because the players were trying their best to keep me involved in everything they did, as the captain of the team, and just after losing the leg, and they're trying their very best to keep me involved. But I found myself, being distant from them because I couldn't keep up with them, because I couldn't be involved, because the banter was still there, but I didn't feel part of it. I felt outside of it. They'd go that morning and do a training session, and I'd be back in the hotel, and then during an open session during the evening time, they'd go and be banging the ball around. I'd be sitting in the dugout. I was there, but I still wasn't involved in it. So, but that said, it was one of those situations where I suppose it kind of felt like you were in the way, more so being involved. And it wasn't down to the lads, it wasn't down to them. It was just me thinking that, and kind of putting it in my own head that was the situation.
But I think that shows why the need for the football for all is there. There should be an outlet for everyone. So how did you kind of tackle that feeling of being in the way? Was it just finding this new outlet in the amputee football and concentrating your efforts on that?
Yeah, I think I went back to after losing the leg, I was out of work. I think it was for 4 years, and one day I was dropping my brother-in-law across to the job that I worked for. He was working there in the warehouse, worker he was in. And as I went over there, I dropped him over, drove him over, and my ex-boss was in the job, came out and said hello to me, and he just out of the blue, he just said, "I'll see you back driving." I said, "Yeah." And he just asked me, he just out of the blue said to me, "Would you think about coming back here and driving?" I said, "Driving what?" He goes, "Well, driving that truck there, that's lying there." And he said, "Yeah, if there's a job, yeah, I'll take it." So they went and got it adapted, which got me back into the workplace, which then gave me a bit more confidence, I think, getting around, proven to myself I could still do a job. And I think it was a year and a half in that job when they went into liquidation. Well, who knew? And it was then a friend of mine said to me, would you do a football course? Like, i.e., there's a course called Project Futsal in Carroll. And I said, yeah. And so I signed up to it. And a friend of mine from Ballymun, who was also an amputee, who was a female, which is Mandy Smith. She signed up for the course with me. And both of us did it, and both of us did great in the course. So it went from there that I did a bit of voluntary work with Oisin in the Football for All programme, as did Mandy too. And Mandy's lifestyle at home, you know, in regards to her being female and also her husband out walking, or she'll kill me for saying husband, it's not her husband's partner, but out walking, she felt, you know, it was going to be difficult for her to go and do the voluntary work and also, you know, keep the house the way she felt it should have been kept. So she trying to manage both of them was going to be difficult for her. So she kind of stepped back from it and just played the football. And I kept going, and I did the voluntary work for 2 years. And then Oisin came up with the funding from somewhere to give me a full-time position as a community coach, which was fantastic for me. And then went from there to being offered a development officer's role within Dublin City Council. And that. So I was delighted. But you know, I have to say, losing the leg gave me that opportunity. You know, it gave me the platform for me to experience all those different emotions, but also move in a direction that was going to be more positive to the outcome of how I felt like.
Yeah, and you're out there in the community now, and I know there's a lot of different initiatives. Just in terms of this podcast and stuff, we're focused on kind of like females. What's the female game like in terms of amputees or even in the Football for All? What's the participation like, and is that a focus in the FAI?
Yeah, it's most definitely a focus within the FAI for a female participation in Football for All. There's a huge lack of females playing the game in their area of football, in Football for All, even though it's very inclusive and females can be included. No end. The only problem is that when a girl comes into that area of Football for All and sees all boys, you know, the first thing they want to do is go back out of it. Like. So it's very difficult to get a lot of girls together, you know, or even small groups of girls. You know, I think for me, the initiative is around something like what Pearl has done within the FAI, you know, and the Disney Playmakers. Is little things like that where you're specific programs just for the girls. And then I think after that is trying to collaborate all the information you have to have one central area that's going to work for everybody, that you can gather all those girls to. You know, if we expand it then from there, I think the idea would be then to link them with clubs in the local areas. But until you have a number, or until you have some data that shows where the numbers are, you know, it's very difficult to do it. But there is a big push, I will say, you know, and we're always speaking about it in our Football for All area around female participation.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there. I know myself, like when you're the only female walking into just a numbers thing, when you walk into maybe there's 5 or 6 guys, like your automatic instinct is maybe just to knock them back, or it's just a little bit more intimidating. That's all.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I think power is, as you mentioned there, like the power is in numbers. Nice that you reference Pearl and what she's doing with that program, because if you can kind of replicate that somehow, even in like a smaller scale, I think that'll definitely be really effective.
Yeah. I think we are being successful in the area of Football for All for females in deaf football. You know, that from an affiliate point of view, deaf football is really expansive, because you have females who come from the deaf schools, you know, and they participate in a competition that we can put together, which will then give a platform for those players to move into international football. We also have deaf players who play mainstream football, you know, all the time, and most people just don't know they're out there.
Yeah. And what can we kind of do to help awareness? I know that you obviously have campaigns, but say, is it getting involved in your club? I know in Peamount there's definitely a Football for All on Saturday mornings for the kids, and it's wonderful to see, and they do get decent numbers there. So is it just that, getting involved in your club and asking what's in place, and can you volunteer? Yeah,
I think it's that, but it's also knowing how to and knowing where to signpost individuals too. We're very much on the side of, I think, in Ireland, most, if not all, you know, people who are involved in the sport sometimes tiptoe around the fact of how they approach people, how they direct them. What should they say? What should they not say? And may be afraid of what may follow if they say the wrong thing. So I think we're always tiptoeing around it. I remember an incident many years ago when I was driving my car and I spotted a guy at a bus stop who was an arm amputee, and they pulled over and jumped out of the car and said, "Do you want to play amputee football?" And he thought I was mad. A year later, he's the captain of the international team, playing a goal for the Ireland team. So I mean, things like that, it's easy for me to, I would say it's easy for me to approach people like that because, I'm constantly wearing shorts so people can see that I'm an amputee and they don't take offense to it. Mind you, if somebody with 2 legs and 2 arms jumps out of the car and runs up to you, first thing you're going to do is run away from them. Yeah. So I mean, it was one of those unique situations. But in Ireland, our female participation in amputee football isn't huge. Now, in our academy, we did have 14 to 16 players, young kids, and there was at least 5 of them that were females. But again, the majority of players that were there were male. So it was quite difficult for them to be involved. It was quite different, and also the different ages. You have some of the girls who may be coming into the 10 and 12 mark. You have other girls who are 5 and 6 and 7. And that different age group. Some of those older girls, though, not that they don't want to be with the younger girls, but they act as role models to the younger girls. But then after a certain amount of time, they kind of just leave me alone for a few minutes.
Yeah,
just for a minute, And you have that situation there, but I suppose right now we have 2, if not 3, girls who attend their junior academy, so and we find that most of those girls seem to be arm amputees,
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So all we can do is kind of keep promoting, and you're obviously doing fantastic work in there. You stepped back from the international team yourself, but you are still the coach.
Yeah, still.
What's coming up this year for you?
This year, so this year we have great news in so much as that we have qualified for World Cup in Turkey, which is first week in October. I think it's so we're in preparation for that. We've got. And I know it sounds really strange when I say this, and sometimes I have to pinch myself at times when I do say it, that we brought our players in for our first fitness-based training testing. And we're in the process now of doing some research on how we best use our energy, best, how our input of how much energy we use and when we use it. At the moment with a research group in Limerick and Stat Sports as well. So we have a good combination of people now who are going to give us that data and put it together, and we will have, we'll have some real substance to, how we can better prepare for our competitions. So we have that, and we'll also have another 6 more training weekends with the players where we have them in. We'll do all the necessary work that we have to prepare for a World Cup. And hopefully, we'll get over it. And I suppose the better news than that is that just at the weekend there, I was at the European Amputee Football Congress, and we had bid for the European Championships in 2024. And we've just been approved of hosting the European Championships in 2024 in Limerick. So that's amazing. So it's all systems go, and all hands to the pump, as the man says. But I would say, we've been in a great position here where we've had a lot of collaboration with the powers that be in the FEI. We've some great people involved in UL who are really, really pushing to make sure this is probably the best competition that all the countries have participated in. And they have great history in delivering those sort of competitions in UL. So So we're all looking forward to it at the moment. Yeah.
Chris, that's congratulations. Both myself and Karen went to college at UL, so we have very fond memories and can speak highly of. And that was quite a while ago, so the sporting facilities have come on a lot since. But they're so experienced in hosting big tournaments, and there's no better spot really in Ireland for it.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and not only obviously is the quality of the competition increasing, but Ireland are decent, which is good as well. You guys finished 8th. Was it 8th last year?
Yeah, we were ranked sixth before that, and we finished 8th. And to be honest, it was down to the lack of bodies, or lack of players we had, and we had to use players for more time than they were able to. We had a few players who had to pull out through work commitments and family. One player recently had a baby as well, so there's a lot of things around, a lot of variables around, the player pool selection you had to choose from. And we're in a great position now going into this competition where we have everybody to choose from, and everybody's striving to, I suppose, get their name on that ticket for the plane. That's where it becomes a bit more stressful for me to go and select them. But I listen. I love the area of this work. Football for All has been huge, has been massive over the last 10 years for me. Or even longer than that. It's been so influential in guiding me in a direction that I want to go with me, not just with my life, but with what I want to give back to individuals, to the community. We're in a position now in the FUI where we're up to more than 50 clubs around the country playing football for all or involved in football for all. We are providing football for all and blitz days for all those. Just recently, we had our interprovincial trials for Leinster. So there's loads of things happening. DDSL now are looking to have a league in place, working with ourselves to make sure all those football for all players get an opportunity to play on a regular basis, as opposed to just 4 or 5 games a year, which would be huge. But I would also say that, with ourselves, it's about, by the end of the year, we would think we're in the 70 to 75 clubs around the country. And that's also just with the couple of development officers that we have at the moment working in the area of football for all. And by the end of the year, that's going to increase.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear about all these initiatives, and obviously the more initiatives there are, the more participation, the more female involvement, and obviously we wish you all the best in the World Cup. Chris, that was very much fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. That's all from myself, Ruth and Emma on this week's COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports in association with Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland's women's national team. As ever, we'll be back with you again next week. Make sure you're subscribed to the COYGIG Pod podcast feed in all your usual places, and we will chat to you then.
The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.